Nobody does fall better than Whole Foods Market. The Spice Up Autumn event is happening now. Save on animal welfare certified beef top sirloin steak, perfect with gravy for a comforting meal. Find savings on organic Honeycrisp apples and organic pears. Then visit the bakery department for their limited time pumpkin butter chai cake. And while you can, level up your fridge with fall wine, beers, and ciders. Spice Up Autumn at Whole Foods Market. Terms apply. Must be 21 plus. Please drink responsibly.
Welcome back to the Mediocre Alaskan Podcast. My guest today is Tom Rowland. Tom is the co-host of the Saltwater Experience, which is in its 17th season, and Into the Blue, which is in its 12th season. Those shows can be streamed at WaypointTV.com, which he founded. His podcast, the Tom Rowland Podcast, is part of the Waypoint Podcast Network, as is this podcast. Thanks for being on here, Tom.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
So I was listening to Along the Keel podcast when you're on there with Zach. Mm-hmm. And he said that you were about to come to Alaska to work in a cannery, but you ended up going to guide school instead. So as an Alaskan, that of course jumped out to me. Do you ever think about how your life would have hinged or pivoted had you come to Alaska rather than go to guide school?
Yes, for sure. First of all, that was a terrible idea. It was a very young man's approach to the world. Like, I worked in Yellowstone and I had a great experience there, but really was looking for the next adventure, the next big thing. And in my mind, the big thing was Alaska. I had never been to Alaska. I didn't know anyone in Alaska. All I knew is that it was a big country and wild. And I knew that fish canneries were up there, and someone probably told me that you could get a job there easy. I had no idea. I didn't know the name of a fish cannery. I didn't know where they existed. It was a terrible idea. I didn't have a car. I didn't have any money. And somewhere along the line, my father walked the very careful line of the line between discouraging me and telling me what a stupid idea this was and that it was never going to work, and somehow presenting another option. So that's the option that he presented. He found this little ad in the back of a magazine that was for a guide school, and he just said, would you rather do this instead of Alaska? He never told me it was a bad idea, which I think about that a lot because I'm the father of three children. And, my kids are now grown up. They're all either out of college or in college. And I'm having to make these same kind of parenting decisions of how do you tell them this is a really bad idea? Or how do you kind of steer them in the direction of what a better idea would be? And I think back to that a lot because I think my dad handled that really well, and it could have gone the other way. He could have said, that's a terrible idea, which probably, knowing my personality and my history, would have made me want to do it more. And so I believe that he read that correctly and was like, how am I gonna do this? But it worked out, like things do. But I also, read the book Into the Wild, Christopher McCandless, and I think that I could have easily ended up like that. I think actually Christopher McCandless had his stuff together a lot more than I did even at that time. I mean, he at least was like, I want this lifestyle. I didn't even know what I wanted. I just wanted bigger, better, further out, and that's Alaska's not the place for that. Alaska's unforgiving, no joke. And, it's an incredible place. I've been there once. I'd love to go back lifetimes, but that's my opinion of it. It's very unforgiving and wild.
Yeah, it's not going to be kind to you just because you say you respect or you love it more than someone else. I mean, nature is nature. It just does what it does. That's such an interesting thing as a teacher, where you hear what kids want to do and you think, oh boy. So how do I draw the line of trying to positively impact, but not, crush the dreams? We got a kid who is graduated from Ketchikan High School who wanted to go to Hollywood. And a lot of people were saying, oh, yes, waste your time. So you'll be back. But now he just finished his second season. I don't know if you've heard of the show Outer Banks. It's kind of a teen drama type thing.
I've got a daughter. This summer we watched all of the Outer Banks.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. So
who is it?
Oh, I don't know his name. Character Rudy Pankow was his name. The kid with a really bad father.
Okay. Yeah. I know who you're talking about.
Gosh, I can't think of his name right now. Character's name. But, and so now he makes it, and all of a sudden, Rudy, I knew you could do it. And
like the Post Malone song. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Right? So, like they always told you weren't going to be anything until you made it. Now they say congratulations.
Yeah. But I think with his personality, looking back when he was in class, like he was the type of kid who he was going to make it. Just a very, he was a hard worker. He worked nights at the Cheesecake Factory washing dishes when he was down there, because that was just what he had to do in order to make it work. And he biked 3 miles to do that. So he was willing to put in the work to do it, had a great attitude, and now he's successful. And I think the same thing goes with that in the industry. When you started off in the film industry, did you feel like you were kind of stepping out into something that was super uncomfortable, or you were unsure with it?
It was definitely super uncomfortable, and I was really unsure. But I was also naive, and a lot of times what you don't know is a good thing. Had I known how difficult it really is and would be, probably wouldn't have done it. But when you don't know any better, and like right now I've got my new shirt on, it says wrestler mentality, and I was a wrestler in high school, and the wrestler mentality is just don't quit, and work harder than the other person, put in the extra work, and just make it happen. And that can benefit you, and it can also not benefit you in a lot of situations. But I just kind of went at it like that, just kind of this is what we're doing, and whatever challenges are there, we'll meet them when we get there. But I mean we just pretty naive, honestly. I had a little bit of experience. I was invited to go to something called the ESPN Great Outdoor Games when they were happening, and I think that was in 99 or 2000 was the first one, and it was supposed to be, they even called it the next big thing, and it was kind of like an Olympics for outdoor sports. That's what they were trying to make it. And they had fishing, bass fishing and fly fishing. They had lumberjack events. They had dog events, sporting dog events like field trials. They had shooting, both gun and bow. They had a few other events there, and I ended up winning that. And when I did win that, I was a guide in Key West, Florida, and it was a trout fishing competition. So this guide from Key West, Florida wins the international trout fishing competition. It had a nice little hook to it, right? Like that was kind of interesting. Like, how did that happen? Well, I had already been guiding for 7 years as a trout guide. I actually had more trout experience than I did saltwater experience at the time. And it was right in my sweet spot. Everything worked out, and I ended up winning that. Well, because of that, a lot of TV shows started calling. They were like, "Hey, well, actually, nothing happened after I won. I thought things were going to happen, but nothing happened. It was a big lesson, because you win this thing that you think is going to be really, really a big deal, and you're waiting for the phone to ring, and literally no one called. And like sponsor, your friends and family. Oh, that was pretty cool. But no sponsors called, no big opportunities happened from this. And I got a little piece of advice from somebody that said, no, nothing's going to happen. You're going to have to make something happen. So I learned how to write a press release. I learned how to, get the word out there. And this is pre-internet, so It's not as easy to do back then as it is today. But long story, a little shorter. I made contact with some TV shows, invited them down, and it wasn't long before I had, 30 or more TV shows under my belt that I had kind of been a guest on. So I had seen what these people were doing. They were all doing something very similar. They were all operating with kind of the same size crew. Some were more professional than others. And we got in a situation to where the tournament fishing that we were doing was very challenging for my home life. We're gone a lot. I had my two boys were very young, diapers, and my wife was at home. I'm gone for weeks at a time. It was tough. And when I'm gone, I'm not making money like I would be when I was chartering. I was booked every single day. And when I would leave, I would just not make any money unless we won. So kind of decided that wasn't going to happen. That was not a good way to spend my life. And I was just going to go back to guiding. But my partner, Rich, asked some good questions like, well, how could we continue to do kind of what we're doing with the sponsorship thing and, kind of like the tournaments, but we don't fish tournaments. And at first it's like, well, I don't know. I don't think that's possible. And then, more thought goes into it. It's kind of like, well, maybe we could do a TV show. It's like, a TV show, huh? You know anything about TV show? So I've been on 30 of them. It doesn't look that hard. That's where I was naive.
Yeah.
Right. So we just started it up, and we did have some relationships in the industry. We had several sponsorship relationships for our tournament fishing, and we just went to those relationships and asked them if they would give us the same amount of money for a TV show. We should have asked for way more because there's a much different budget in tournaments and TV. But that's how it got started. And, there was a lot of doubt. There was a lot of frustration. There was a lot of really unknown things. Like we're not trained in the TV industry. We don't know anything about it. And really, I still feel like that. Like there are a lot of people that are in the TV business, and they produce way more TV shows than I have, and they know way more about what they're doing than I do. And I wonder about that, but we've been able to carve out a little niche for ourselves, and I think in some ways it could be an advantage. I mean, I think that what you don't know could actually be an advantage, because we're way faster to change our approach if it's not working, because we don't know any better, right? So in some ways we've figured out some things that are really ahead of the industry, just because we're just trying to solve a problem. We're not trying to do it the way it's always been done. Mm-hmm. And that can benefit you as the if you're all mired in the way it's always been done, your dad did it this way, your grandfather did it this way, this is the way you're going to do it. Well, things change. And if you get mired in that, it doesn't always benefit you, mm-hmm. But no matter what you're doing, as a fishing guide, as a TV producer, as a businessman, as anything, things change, and you need to change with those things, or at least adapt to them. And, we've been able to do that in the TV world because we don't know any better. But yeah, there's been plenty of doubt.
After years of fine print contracts and getting ripped off by big wireless providers, if we've learned anything, it's that there's always a catch. So when I first heard that Mint Mobile offers premium wireless starting at just $15 a month, I thought, what's the catch? But after talking to them and using their service, it all made sense. There isn't one. Mint Mobile's secret sauce is that they're the first company to sell wireless service online only. They cut out the cost of retail stores and pass those sweet savings directly to you. For anyone who hates their phone bill, Mint Mobile offers premium wireless for just $15 a month. I was hesitant about having to get a new phone and a new phone number, but with Mint, you can use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and keep your same phone and your same phone number along with all of your existing contacts. Mint Mobile gives you the best rate whether you're buying for one or for a family, and at Mint, families start at 2 lines. All plans come with unlimited talk and text plus high-speed data delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. Switch to Mint Mobile and get premium wireless service starting at just $15 a month. To get your new wireless plan for just $15 a month and to get the plans shipped to your door for free, go to mintmobile.com/waypoint. That is mintmobile.com/waypoint. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/waypoint.
I think it was the same episode. You mentioned that when you were getting started, everything was out of reach for the ordinary person. You guys were kind of the ordinary people. Now everything is not. Like everybody has a drone. Everybody has underwater cameras. Do you think that has improved the overall quality of fishing content, hunting content? Or do you think it's so saturated right now with so much content that it's difficult for people to stand out?
It's definitely difficult for people to stand out. That question has a number of answers. It's definitely improved the quality of everything that is being produced. I mean, I can produce a video right now with the phone that I'm holding in my hand that will be higher quality than what we produced with a crew and a $100,000 beta cam. I mean, the technology just was not there. We had to rent real helicopters to get any sort of aerial shots that's like $5,000 an hour. And now you've got, and so we would get an hour's worth of footage, as much as we could possibly get. And, we're stopping the boat and changing shirts and making it look as different as we possibly can so that we could use these shots somewhere else. And then we have to remember, oh yeah, I was wearing that blue shirt. So I'm going to wear that on today's show. And then we'll have an aerial shot we can, put in there somewhere. I mean, that was pretty high tech. That was like incredible. Now you got drones that are documenting an entire catch, drones that are documenting unbelievable things, and you get a completely different perspective, and everybody's got that. So all of that, the technology and the cameras, the price of the cameras have come way down. A GoPro was completely unheard of when we started. Those little tight kind of point of view shots were there was nothing like that. And so all of that is really cool and interesting. But because it's so much more available, and you have YouTube, where you have a platform where anybody could put anything up there, regardless of quality, it's very difficult to stand out. You have waves of people that got on YouTube and started producing content, whether that was good content or bad content or high quality or low quality. And because people were trying to find things to watch on YouTube when it was first starting, you had this wave of people that got in at the right time and continued to do it and have built these amazing followings. And really the cream rises to the top there too, where if they have those followers and they continue to produce good content, they're going to get the views. But if you miss that wave, it's extremely difficult to rise to the top of YouTube these days. Extremely difficult. When we started, we had gatekeepers, right? It was extremely difficult to get on TV because you had to pass someone's opinion, some sort of producer or some sort of television executive. They had to kind of give you the nod, and you had to have, you had to be legit. You had to have, a tournament record, and you had to have, world records and whatever you could amass that would make your name something more than someone else's. And if you had enough of that, they would say, okay, it wasn't like if you just produced a great TV show, they would let you on the air. They wouldn't even let you on the air. They wanted only, recognizable names and names that they could build on. And so you had to build that before you could even think about starting a TV show. And all that's changed. Now there's zero barrier for entry. And it's not a bad thing. It's not a good thing. It's just a different thing. And it's in a lot of ways, it's made it much, much more difficult for someone to rise to the top. And in many cases, kind of depending on when you start and just a lot of factors that are kind of out of your control that you're not even thinking about, that determines a lot of success or failure.
Yeah. What would you recommend to someone who's trying to make it? Obviously, it doesn't mean it's actually going to happen, but things like authenticity are the things that I look for in content. If I'm watching something, I want it to seem like, oh, this is like a real person. I think this person who's the host of this show is probably like this in real person too, or off the camera. But at the same time, in order to get views on YouTube, sometimes it's the stupidest, most, unethical thing. So there's kind of this, you want authentic, real person, but we know the recipe to get hits is to be an idiot. So what would you recommend to someone?
Well, first of all, I would make a goal that is a good goal. So just to say, I want to make it. Well, what does that mean? And what does that mean to you? And how are you going to determine success or failure? Like, is making it getting 1 million views on a video? Well, you can do that. Like, lots of people can do that. And it's not uncommon. And you could even make a bad video. You could pour, $60,000 into the video and into Google ads and YouTube ads, and you'll get 1 million views, but you spent $60,000 on it and it wasn't that good. And so that is the first thing I would say, is like, know what it is that you want. Create a goal that is measurable and that you can kind of have an idea whether you're making progress or not. And then make sure that goal is something that really is important to you in the long term. Like, why do you want to make it? Are you trying to make a living at this? Or do you just want people to know your name? Or do you think something is going to happen if you get 1 million views or 10 million views? Like, what is it that you're trying to accomplish? And a lot of times when you look at goals like that, what you actually want is not that hard to get, right? Like, you don't have to be the #1 YouTuber in the world to make a living producing hunting or fishing videos. You could do that much differently, and you could create a goal that you could measure your success, and you could understand whether you're getting closer to that goal or further away from that goal. And you can understand that, you're doing it in a way that is sustainable. Like, for example, if you decide that, you want to make it, well, that means a lot of different things. That could mean the 1 million views once and you're done. Or you could redefine that goal and be like, well, I want to figure out a way that I can make a living doing this. And in order to make a living doing this, I need to make $60,000 a year. I mean, that's a good goal. You can figure out how to do that. And there are measurable ways that you can decide. Did you make 40,000 this year? Did you make 20,000 this year? Okay, well, you're making progress towards your goal. Do more of what you're doing, and you'll get to that 60,000, and you'll be exactly where you were. And then try not to move the goalpost, midway through. Like, try to set that goal and think about what it is that you really want, and then go after it.
So have your goals changed over the last, your shows have been on for almost 20 years now. So have your goals changed in the last 20 years?
No, they've changed.
Now you got family. Now you got a lot of other stuff going on.
Yeah, I mean, they change all the time, and that's fine. That's perfectly fine. But and in fact, I think it's necessary, because a lot of people, you can even take it to a real, extreme example of somebody. I don't know. Say it's a football player. He's like, I want to win a Super Bowl. Okay, all his life he wants to win a Super Bowl, and then he finally wins a Super Bowl. He's like, I kind of thought there was going to be more. Like, or now what? Like, and you see people that get caught in this thing. They make this win an Olympic medal, or maybe they I don't know, whatever it is, they make the $1 million that they've been thinking about for their whole life, and then they get it, and it's like almost a letdown, because there's not a bigger goal in mind. Like, what do you do from there? And you see a lot of people that have a lot of difficulty with that, and professional athletics is ripe with examples of people that just, they did great, and then they just fell apart afterwards. So I've been careful to just analyze kind of where I'm going, why, and reset those goals. So, when I first started with a TV show, I mean, really the main purpose of the TV show was so that we could understand the sponsorship game and keep our guide services booked all the time. Well, that was pretty easy, right? Like, when you have a TV show, a lot of people tend to call you, and you get plenty of bookings. And then sooner or later, you start fishing with a few people a whole lot. And by the end of my guide career, I was only fishing with 3 or 4 people for 300 days a year. And so you have to reevaluate those goals all the time. And I do. And reevaluating a goal once you've accomplished it is different than what I was talking about, like moving the goalposts before you even get there. Like, that's a dangerous thing, where, you think, okay, well, I want to make that $60,000 a year, and you get to 40, and then you change the goal, and you change it to something else. I want to be the #1 YouTuber, and sometimes you get thrown off track, and in your pursuit of trying to change the goal midway, you get thrown off track and you don't even reach the original goal. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I've been careful to try to reach the original goal and then reevaluate, or go reach higher, or, alter the plan in some way to change the goal later.
Mm-hmm. I had a couple of friends that ran marathons. We're all training for the same marathon, and they wanted to run it because they wanted to get healthier, and the focus was on the marathon itself. And so once the marathon was finished, they kind of went back to the old habits. And that was kind of what we're talking about with the goal thing. The goal is to run the marathon, but really the transformative thing was that you became the type of person who cares about your health and who runs. Like, that was the thing. It wasn't I ran the marathon, I accomplished this, now my life's going to be different. That was the wrong focus. And that was after I ran a couple marathons. This is not for me, but just being the type of person who cares about the health. I'm going to exercise. I'm going to exercise daily. I'm going to do something. And that's the key. You became that type of person who cares on a daily level. And you have these little check marks or these little cool things that you get to do, but that is not ultimately the end. I know fitness is really important in your life. It's 9:00 back there, so you probably got a nice workout in for sure. How important is fitness and staying healthy in your personal life and your work life and all that?
I would say paramount. One of the top 3 things, for a long time, I would say, and it was family, fishing, and fitness. 3 F's. There's probably more to life now, but fitness is the foundation upon what everything else is built on. And I've wrestled with kind of the thought that it can be selfish at times, because especially when my kids were really young, they're in diapers. My wife is caring for them, and I want to go and work out for 30 minutes or an hour. And it seems kind of selfish. It really does. But I came to grips with that a long time ago. And part of coming to grips with that was good communication with my wife and my family, and also choosing the right time to do those things. And I came to grips with it to to understand that I can't be, or let's say, in order to be the best father, leader, businessman, fishing guide, TV host, husband, son, in order to be all of those things at my highest level, I have to be in good shape. I have to be. And I had, fortunate or unfortunate, I consider it very fortunate. In the type of fishing that I was doing, it's extremely athletic. You're on a 16-foot boat in the Florida Keys. It's almost always windy. You're pushing it along for 8 to 10 hours a day with a stick. And, we, for a long, long time, we didn't have any trolling motors, nothing. It's just pure manual propulsion with a stick. We call it a push pole. It's a fancy graphite stick. And you just push that boat along, and you do it all day long. And you can get, shoulder issues. You can get back issues. You're riding around in a boat that is, it's a small boat. So the waves are, it's hard on your back. It's hard on your knees. It's hard on your whole body. It's like being a professional athlete, because no matter what happens today, you have to get out there and do it again tomorrow, no matter what the weather is, no matter what. So it's blowing 25 and you need to pole into that wind for 2 hours. Well, that's just what you're going to do. Or you have to, call an audible and be like, well, I can't pole into that wind. That's a whole different discussion of not being in physically good enough shape to be where the fish are. But when I first got to the Keys, I couldn't go 8 days in a row. I was physically wiped out, completely wiped out. I didn't know how to take care of myself. I didn't drink enough water. I didn't know anything about electrolytes. I didn't eat well. I probably wasn't sleeping well, drinking beer every night. And my friends there, they could go, 25 days in a row. And I just couldn't understand how they were doing it. And I decided, okay, well, I'm gonna get in better shape. I'm gonna learn how to take care of myself. I'm gonna get out of the sun a little bit. I'm gonna wear, more protective clothing. Ended up covering up my face, wearing long sleeve shirts, putting pants on. And every little bit that I got out of the sun, I noticed, I have a little bit more energy at the end of the day. I can go an extra couple of days. Start paying attention to the way that you drink, how much water you're drinking, and just these little steps. And then the little steps led to, okay, well, now I'm going to start running more. And then I started running a whole bunch, and I started, doing a lot of push-ups and doing other things that would be good for my shoulders, so that I wouldn't have shoulder impingements or anything like that. And I could keep poling the boat every day. Well, I got to where I could do 25 days in a row, no problem. I could do 30 days in a row, no problem. I could do 50 days in a row, no problem. Finally, to the point of I can book an infinite number of days. I'll go all year long. And the most days I ever did in a row without a day off was 175. And to think about that from a financial perspective, we were having babies, and life got expensive really fast. And you have that motivation to work more and make more money and provide for your family, but you're physically incapable of doing it because the sun in the Florida Keys is really intense, and it's a tough environment to be out in every single day. But the better shape I got in, the more days I could go, and the less days I needed to take off. So therefore, the more money I was making, and it became a 1-to-1 deal. But also, I was able to have enough energy at the end of the day after working like that to spend quality time with my wife and my kids, and to not just be dead at the end of the day. And so I was fortunate to have that kind of 1-to-1 relationship. It wasn't kind of like, I think I'm doing better because I'm getting in better shape. It was, no, I couldn't go 8 days. Now I can go 175. I mean, it wasn't, there was no kind of like, when you take vitamins or something, you're kind of like, I think I might feel a little bit different. It was, no, this was black and white. Absolutely. I'm better. like this. And I became better in every aspect of my life because I was in better shape. And so then I started to kind of get a grip on, what I was saying was, is this selfish or not? And talking to my wife about it and saying, this isn't selfish. I'm doing this as much for you as I am for me. If I want to be the best at my duties as a man, being a husband and a father and a leader, I have to be in good shape. So you still encounter this issue with, okay, well, I get home from work. My wife's been with the kids all day long. It's chaos at the house. She really needs a break. And that's my duty too. So I had to kind of decide, okay, well, I understand this one-to-one relationship with fitness, and I understand that I have, other duties. And if I just get home and say, all right, see ya, I'm going for a run, I'll be back in an hour and a half, that's not going to be sustainable. That's not going to be good. So I said, okay, well, if I can't do it then I need to do it when the kids are asleep, and maybe even when my wife's asleep. So that's either late night or very early in the morning. And so I just decided, okay, well, I'll just get up early and I'll get all this done. And, I'd be leaving the dock sometimes at 6 o'clock in the morning, but I'd get up at 4 so that I can take my run and get my exercise in for the day. And, then it's done. And that was my time. And then fitness became a life enhancer rather than something that causes big problems at home, right? Like if you're selfish with your time and you just take off when your wife needs you the most, it's not going to be good. So, I had to, for myself, and everybody does this a little differently. It doesn't really matter how you do it, as long as you kind of do it, I guess. But I had to find time that I could do it, that was not taking away time from my family.
That's such
that's what I did.
Such an important mindset. And I think some people think that because they don't have a job that necessitates being fit, they kind of trick themselves into thinking that, oh, it doesn't really matter. But like teachers are notorious for, when you think of teachers, some people think coffee, Diet Coke, and like snack drawer. And we sit all the time as teachers. So like this is a non-physical job if we let it be. And if we sit all the time, that's incredibly unhealthy. And then, but I think the mindset of it makes everything better, no matter what job you have. You don't have to be pulling a boat in the Keys or, being an athlete. Like anything that you do, any job, and it might even be more important if you are at a desk job, because you're sitting, you're slouching your shoulders, you have terrible posture.
Of it, even on a subconscious level, they see that you're a leader in their life, and you're not paying any attention to your body whatsoever. They have a tendency to do that too. That's what I did as well with my kids. I didn't ever really tell them that they had to exercise.
I just did it. And they ask questions. Why do you do that? And I tell them, it makes me feel better. It makes me strong. Look, check out my muscle. Let's see your muscle. And then they wanted to do it with me. I made it fun when they did want to do it with me. I didn't say, oh no, this is grown up stuff. I would say, no, let's go. Well, let's find a way, to make this workout fun. And, we would imitate animals and jump around the yard like frogs and all that's great exercise. And they had a fun time doing it. And now later in their life, they're gravitating back to that. I noticed when my daughter went to college, one of the first things that she packed was all her workout clothes. And she, looked at her schedule and she's like, okay, this is when I'm going to exercise. And I was like, wow, that is awesome. That is so awesome. I didn't have to say, make sure you get your exercise in, because she knows that that's a way that she processes stress. She knows that that's a way that she, thinks through problems, because she's done it for 10 years. Like, this isn't new. But it's very easy to forget. It really is. Even for the most dedicated person, you get a new job, your life changes, you have kids, something happens, and you go a couple of weeks without exercise, it's very easy to forget the benefits that once were so obvious to exercise. Like, I got a problem, I take a little run, I come back, I've got a different perspective on that problem, and I'm usually a better problem solver. Or I realize that that's maybe not even a problem I need to worry about. I don't know. I always process things better like that. If you go away from that and you don't do that for a while, it becomes pretty easy to kind of forget the benefits that were once so obvious. It's a funny thing the way the human brain works like that, but
Yeah.
it definitely does.
Do you have a particular like fitness structure that you like? CrossFit type, more? I know you do a lot of stuff like kind of outside. Some can be fairly intimidating, and some of the programs can be kind of overbearing for some people.
Nobody does fall better than Whole Foods Market. The Spice Up Autumn event is happening now. Save on animal welfare certified beef top sirloin steak, perfect with gravy for a comforting meal. Find savings on organic Honeycrisp apples and organic pears. Then visit the bakery department for their limited time pumpkin butter chai cake. And while you can, level up your fridge with fall wine, beers, and ciders. Spice up autumn at Whole Foods Market. Terms apply. Must be 21 plus. Please drink responsibly.
Yep. For me, I started. I was athletic growing up. I played pretty much every sport. Wrestling was the one that I spent the most time doing. Because of that, I was very familiar with the weight room. I was very familiar with body weight exercises. I was very familiar with working out by myself as well as working out with a team. So I have a lot of things to draw from, a lot of experience to draw from. But then, even when I was guiding, kind of like, okay, well, to get in shape, I know exactly how to get in shape. You go to wrestling practice. That's how you get in shape. Well, I'm 28 years old. Where do you go to wrestling practice? Like, so I was just like everybody else. Like, I want to get in shape. I understand the importance of it, but I don't know what to do. And so I just started running, and ended up getting interested in that, starting to run some marathons, and really found that running was very beneficial. In my signature way of all or nothing, I got so into running that I started to lose all my upper body strength, except for poling. I got really thin, and started kind of having some back issues because of all the running and all the running around in the boat, and kind of decided, I want to try to get some of this back. So I started doing some pull-ups and some jump rope workouts and stuff like that. Led me to find CrossFit about 2007 on the internet, as well as many other things. There was Jim Jones back at the day in those days. There was Ross Enamite had this Ross training website, and between the 3 or 4, Seal Fit was another one, and they would just offer these workouts that you could do by yourself with a dumbbell, very little equipment, often no equipment, and you could do them right in your backyard. Didn't take a lot of time. And then there was this online community where you could, post your score or whatever, and you felt like, even though I'm doing this by myself, it feels kind of like there are other people around. So I kind of gravitated to that, and I started to like CrossFit more and more, mostly because there was a competitive thing to it. Like there is the CrossFit Games and the CrossFit Open that hundreds of thousands of people will compete online for this. And I don't know, for me, just like when you decide you're going to become a runner, it's fun to have a race to train for, right? So the CrossFit Games is just kind of something for me that I like to have out there, that I kind of train for every year. I haven't made it yet, but I'm getting closer every year. And it's not like that drives everything for me. And that's the only reason that I do that. It's just kind of a goal that's out there, and it's something to train for. And, like every February, the games are about to start, and, so are you in shape or not? Are you going to do it this year? Or I don't know. So I do that, but that is not for everyone. That's certainly not for everyone. And it's not necessary to do that to be in good shape, to live a healthy lifestyle. I don't know. I have a lot of people that ask me this because in the fishing world, fitness is not really at the forefront. So, people from the podcast and other things, they'll message me. They'll say, "Hey, look, I want to get in shape, but I don't want to do CrossFit, and I don't want to do this. What should I do?" And I'm just like, something that you like, and kind of go back through what we talked about before. You need to find something that you enjoy doing, that's fun. It would be great if there was a community setting around it, and it would be fantastic if you start thinking about how you're going to do this, and you're going to try to make it to where it's sustainable and a life enhancer versus something that takes away. So, what you like to do is go to the gym. Well, how about not going at dinner time when your family needs you at home? Like, that's not going to be sustainable. That's going to be something that your family looks at as competitive to their time, right? So that's not going to work. You need to find something that you can do at a time that doesn't take away from other obligations in your life. And it needs to be fun. And it shouldn't be something that you look at as this complete drudgery. It should be the best hour of your day. So whether that's tennis, swimming, walking, creating a running group, CrossFit, jiu-jitsu, I don't know what it is. It doesn't even matter what it is. Only thing that matters is that you're consistently doing it, that it's benefiting your life, both physically, mentally, spiritually, and that it's sustainable.
Yeah. The guide, perception. It's funny, I talked about the teacher. People think about snack drawers and Diet Cokes. The guides, you just think of sunburns and so that guide life can be
sunburns and what was the other thing you said?
Beer.
Oh yeah.
Come
sandwiches.
And sandwiches, and then like rowing your face off all day, or pulling if you're on a river doing the rowing, and then just living off beer. That's kind of that's the perception, I think, in some regards. But as far
there is a guide body, and what you just described is how you get that. You got big, strong, broad shoulders from rowing or poling or whatever, and then you got a big gut. and you know what? The poling and some people get confused a little bit about it. It's like, well, I thought you wanted to say exercise. Well, I got a rowing machine here. How is that any different than what you're doing on the river all day? And to their point, rowing, you're rowing on a rowing machine and you're rowing a drift boat, not that much different, but it's the intensity. It's the intensity of what you're doing, and it's also getting your heart rate up, and then also not just doing one thing. Like if you're a drift boat guide, probably the last thing you need to do is more rowing. Mm-hmm. Like you need to do some other things that get your heart rate up.
Yeah. So in closing here, I got the first day of school today, so I want to get rolling here, but I do want to ask you about the future. Depending on where you're at, there's fish population concerns, there's habitat concerns. Going forward in the future, 10, 15, 20 years, what do you think the future is for the fishing industry as a general question?
So that's a good question. Honestly, I'm optimistic. And I have an optimistic view of that. We had something like 700,000 new fishing licenses last year. There were also a ton of new hunters. There are also tons of people, the boating industry, the boats are sold out. RVs are sold out. There are a lot more people getting into the outdoors. So I'm optimistic because the more people that are aware of what's out there, the more people who actually care about that, right? So if you have more fishermen, you would think that gives us a 700,000 more voices to express concern over habitat loss, over whatever it may be. But I think that it is up to the people that are currently in this world, whether you're a professional or an amateur or whatever. I think it's up to us to reach out and help to educate all of these new anglers and hunters to good ethical behavior on the water, to learning their own spots and not just following people around and crowding in on them, understanding the importance of habitat, and understanding that when you're a hunter or a fisherman, you are a conservation leader. No one is a better conservationist than a hunter or a fisherman. That is, it's been proven time and time again over history that the hunters and fishermen are really the ones that actually care and are willing to put their money and their time and their vote towards conservation and making sure that what they like to do is protected. So whether you're an elk hunter or a duck hunter or a tarpon fisherman or a cat fisherman, doesn't really matter. Is you have an interest in seeing those fish or those animals as healthy as they possibly can be. Mm-hmm. And I think that when you have more people getting into the world of hunting and fishing, if they are brought in correctly, and if we can keep them there, and if we can educate them in a way that they feel welcome and they understand what their role and responsibility is, I think we have a great chance of making huge differences in the things that happen that could possibly be damaging to the environment.
That's great. It's a good answer.
Well, there's a lot of work to be done.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, they see somebody, coming in on them on a river or getting close to them on their spot and just start screaming, like, what are you doing? Don't you know? No, they don't know. Like, you just try to be a little bit patient. I don't like people coming in on me any more than anybody else, but it's obvious sometimes when you see the way somebody's approaching you, they're not like stalking and being careful about what they're doing and deciding, yeah, I know this is the line I shouldn't cross, but I'm crossing it anyway. And I'm getting really close to that guy. You can see that guy coming from a mile away, just like you can see the guy that has no idea, completely oblivious to anything that's going on. And somebody like that can really benefit from, hey, I don't know if you saw this, but I got 5 lines out the back here. We've been here for a while. When you come right behind me like this, it really kind of messes me up. If you'd like to see what we're doing, anchor up right here and let me show you.
Yeah.
And that guy can be your best friend from then on. Mm-hmm. And you can teach him how to do it correctly. As opposed to just screaming and yelling at him. And, either that person becomes real bitter about it, or they don't fish anymore, or they become your enemy. And every time they see you, they run you over. Like, I don't know. It's hard to do. It's a very fine line. I'm not claiming I know how to do it any better than anybody else. Just saying, with all the new anglers and hunters, try to have a little bit of patience.
Yeah. We want more people on our team to be advocates for the things that we love to do, but we don't want those people then in the same spot we're going to hunt or fish. It's
that's right. That's right.
But well, thanks a lot for being on here, man. I really appreciate everything that you've done. And
thanks for having me.
Be part of Waypoint. So again, where can people find you and give the pitch for all that stuff?
Yeah, sure. They can go to either saltwaterexperience.com. That's for the TV show, or tomrowlandpodcast.com. Those are the 2 websites. And then, it'd be awesome if you don't know what Waypoint TV is. If you go to WaypointTV.com, you can learn how to get Waypoint on every device on your smart TVs. You can find out how to watch the live feed on Samsung Plus and Vizio. And there's an entire podcast network there where you can check out all these different shows that are there. So that's pretty much it. Those 3 websites.
Excellent. Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
All right. Thank you.